Okay, now this is my second video of the 3 video challenge that I agreed to do with my 2 other roommates, Jarrett and Patrick James. This video is going to be about Stoicism and a book that I listened to called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Now this guy is he's got a past that was focused on marketing. He was the marketer for American Apparel and was responsible for Tucker Max achieving the publicity that he did. He did a lot of really cool things, but for me, I read his books about marketing, but one of the most influential books that he wrote to me was called The Obstacle is the Way, and it touches on Stoicism a lot and talks about the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, who was one of the great Stoic philosophers and authors, and also one of the most powerful people to ever walk the earth. He was one of the Caesars of ancient Rome when it was at its height of power, in like the year 400 AD or something like that. So the reason I'm talking about this book is that it seems to be very relevant to my life and a lot of the mid-20s people that I hang out with. Stoicism is something that everyone can kind of use in their everyday life because it works on 3 different facets. 1 being perception, 2 being action, 3 being your will. Now, what do these mean? So when you approach an issue, or you come across a setback, or you have something horrible happen to you, or you come to a crisis that you don't know how to handle in your life, you essentially tell yourself instantly a story about how bad it really is. And the story you tell yourself about how bad it is usually dictates how bad it ends up really being. So if you tell yourself it's horrible, or that this is an irreversible, permanent, shitty thing to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it, well, then that's probably exactly right. But if you see it as, well, I can do something about this, truly, you're reasonable about that, you can do something about it, then you're probably going to do something about it, and you're probably going to work around it, or you're going to use it as a learning experience. That seems to be the best way to deal with a setback or unexpected event. So part of it comes, one of the big things that needs to happen is you need to figure out what events you can control, which ones you can't control, and then take right action to the ones you can. But what do you do about those events that you cannot control at all? Well, I think that gets a little more complicated, and I think that poses a even bigger problem for probably more people. So what do you do if you come across a situation that's super sucky, but you can't do anything about it? Well, if you asked a Buddhist, they'd probably tell you, well, you probably shouldn't be attached to stuff that you can't control, and you probably shouldn't desire things that you have no way of imposing your will on achieving. So being grounded in reality and knowing what things you can and cannot control, and only desiring the things that you can control the acquisition of, seems to be a right way forward. So what do you do about the things that you cannot control and are really shitty? Well, it seems that you have to figure out a way to accept those things as reality and not resist your reality. So there's a Latin saying, it is amor fati, which means love your fate. So how do you love everything that happens to you if some of those things that happen to you are super shitty? Well, I don't know, because I haven't reached that point of enlightenment, and I have not withdrawn all attachment and desire of the things that I am not in control of. There are things that I would like to happen in my life that I probably don't have any control of. I might get hit by a bus tomorrow and get paralyzed from the legs down, and whether or not that was in my control or not, it's something that I'm gonna have to roll with, or I'm doomed to a life of resisting my own reality and fantasizing about an ideal reality. So the idea of disconnecting your attachment to things that you have no control over seems to be a good idea, and can probably help mitigate the levels of disappointment that you feel. So I also think that if you use these principles of Stoicism and Buddhism, which I think has a lot of overlap to Stoicism, not only are you going to reduce the amount of disappointment and suffering that you experience, because you're not going to be expecting things or desiring things or attaching your emotions to things that that are out of your control, you'll probably be more productive because you won't be distracted by all the shit that's not happening in your life that you wish were happening. And I don't know about you, but disappointment and suffering can be very distracting and very counterproductive to me achieving my goals. So I don't think it's a bad thing to keep your expectations of your reality at a reasonable level and not attaching yourself to things that potentially might never happen, or attaching yourself to a reality that could very well change at any moment. One of the Stoics said, I forget which one it was, but he said that you should not abstain from all luxury just because a life of luxury might not happen all the time. You should experience good things and enjoy awesome shit, even if you don't expect them to happen all the time. I think you should be hungry to actualize your potential and be the best person you possibly can be, but at the same time not attach yourself to things that might happen to you that are completely outside of your control. So that was my rant on Stoicism. I also think that you should go watch the movie Gladiator, because that movie's fucking awesome, and it's a really good example of somebody who, the main character of that movie, his name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, and he's played by Russell Crowe, and he's like the ultimate badass in my opinion in that movie, because he embodies what a Stoic would do in the worst situation that anyone could ever possibly find themselves. I mean, his whole fucking family is murdered, and the Emperor of Rome tries to assassinate him right after the previous Emperor of Rome told him that he wanted him to be the Emperor of Rome. So he becomes a slave and has to fucking fight people in an arena, and uses all of his resources that he could possibly use to not only raise his status to that of a famous person, a famous slave gladiator that everyone looked up to. Even though that movie takes place in ancient Rome, I think it's a very, very, very good example of how to approach life and deal with shitty shit and use your resources that you have available to you in the most positive and productive way possible, to use shitty experiences as a learning experience and making the best of your circumstances, and accepting your reality and moving forward with the things that you can affect and can change, and accepting the things that you cannot change. So that's my rant on Stoicism and the book The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Go buy that book. It's pretty good. That's my last video in the 3-day, 3-movie, 3-video challenge that me and my roommates are doing. Until next time, I'm sure I'll put more videos out on YouTube. Peace out.